A 4-game week sees the Leafs struggle to the top of the standings with 2 wins. But unfortunately, a 4-game week sees the Leafs stumble to 3rd in the league with 2 losses. Seriously, only 3rd in the league, Leafs? Come on now. I mean seriously, people might think you're only 1 year out for missing the playoffs or something. Oh, by the way, did I mention how awesome this is? Go Leafs go, and welcome to the penalty box! Woo! Alright, first up, Leafs lose to the Ottawa Senators 3-2 in regulation. Scoring for the Leafs, Clark MacArthur with 2, and yep, that's it. Meanwhile, the Sens answered back with Colin Greening, Chris Neal, and a man whose name I'm sure I'm massacring completely, Kaspar Zdogavins. Sorry, Cass. Anywho, even though this is a loss to a team who's well below us, which sucks, I'll take it. Because suddenly, inexplicably, the Sens got hot, and that happens over an 82-game schedule. But also because there were positives for the Leafs. MacArthur continues to put his slow start behind him, racking up 2 goals in this one. Kuhlman also gets 2 points in this game with assists on both MacArthur goals. And Jonas Gustafsson looked decent too, stopping 27 of 30 shots. Which, yeah, he got the loss, but he stopped more than his Ottawa counterpart did. And lastly, this game was at least a close and entertaining game with a thrilling ending, including a pulled goalie and a Leafs power play in the dying seconds. Wow. Which is more than I can say about the other loss this week. We'll get to that. Anyway, good game, 3rd regulation loss of the season, thrilling end, yeah. And that's all I have to say about that. And after the game, as it was on Halloween, a certain Leafs player who's dominated the month got his due, as Phil Kessel was nominated one of the 3 players of the month. Joining him in this honor are Nikolai Heffiewiggle, who had an unbelievable start out in Edmonton, and Kari Lehtinen, who had an equally unlikely amount of success in Dallas. Well deserved, Phil. Keep it going. Moving on, the Leafs take care of some Marley business as they send Matt Fratton back down to the AHL. This was simply a question of production, as Fratton had only 1 assist in the past 11 games. And this is not to say Matt's a bad player. He will be a good player on the Leafs when it's his time. It's just that that time is not now. You look at the players clamoring to get a shot up in the big club, the numbers they put up cannot be ignored. And the one they chose not to ignore to replace Fratton, Joey Crabb, who's tied for 3rd in the AHL scoring race with 7 goals and 8 assists in 9 games. I mean, how can you not give a guy like that a shot in the bigs? And it pays off as the Leafs win 5-3 over the New Jersey Devils. Scoring for the Leafs, new guy Joey Crabb, Mikhail Grabovski, and Joffrey Lupul with his first hat-trick as a Leaf. New Jersey replied with Danius Zubris, Patrick Elias, and David Clarkson in the losing effort. First up, what the heck happened to Martin Brodeur? Okay, don't answer that, I know he's old, but how did he overnight just become totally broken down? I mean, last year wasn't a great year, but I assumed it was because he had a bad coach and a team that just kind of sucked. And they managed to turn things around, rehiring coach Jacques Lemaire and leading a push that got them to the doorstep of the playoffs. And he still got some moves left in him, as he proved on a sweet stick save in the 3rd, totally robbing Phil Kessel of a sure goal. But now, well, I just had to dump Martin Brodeur for Nikolai Heffiewiggle on my fantasy hockey team. Yeah, how many times have any of you said that? Second thought on the night, Joffrey Lupul's hat-trick. That has to be one of the quickest hat-tricks I've ever seen, coming in 7 minutes and 22 seconds to put away the win. And that right there is representative of the entire turnaround that Joffrey Lupul has had in his career. Think about it, he's coming to the Leafs from Anaheim a totally broken down player. He's been injured, basically everybody's giving up on him, he's being virtually given away for Francois Beauchemin. Yet he turns his career trajectory around and becomes one of the best players on a pretty good team. What a comeback story that is, and it just speaks to the genius of Brian Burke deciding to take a chance on this guy. Way to go, Lupul. The very next night, the Leafs are back in action, which is not an area they've had success in, losing the 2nd in all their back-to-back matches on back-to-back nights. But there's a first time for everything as the Leafs win 4-1 against the awful, awful, awful Columbus Blue Jackets. Filling that for the blue and white, Joey Crabb with his 2nd goal in his 2nd game, Clark MacArthur with his 5th and 6th goals of the season, and a guy you don't hear very often from, surprisingly, John Michael Lyles, filling the net for the Blue Jackets. You see what I did there? See what I did? Ryan Johansson. That's it. This one was just pure dominance. I mean, it was over early. Leafs did not waste any time as they were already up 4-0 on 11 shots, only 5.5 minutes into the second period. Goalie Steve Mason gets the hook in favor of backup Alan York. That stops the hemorrhaging. Ryan Johansson manages a goal in reply, but that's it. Leafs take it in a walk, now moving into first place in the league. Now, how long has it been since any of you could say that? It's total redemption right now. All the teasing, all the ribbing, just all melting away. First in the league. Savor it. And two Marlies played a major role in this victory. Joey Crabb, who started the scoring 3 minutes in, and of course making his Leafs debut in this one, Toronto Marlies starting goaltender Ben Scrivens. He faced 39 shots, stopping 38, a very impressive start for the AHL puck stopper. And that's exactly what you want in a Major League debut for a goalie like Ben Scrivens. He's had a good showing in the American Hockey League, so you turn him loose on a not very good team. Hope he has a good showing so he can build his confidence up, which is really a goalie's greatest asset. And hey, if you whip the living daylights out of your opposition, even better! And speaking of goalies, since we have Ben Scrivens hanging around, that means one thing. James Reimer has missed another game with his mysterious whiplash injury. A magical form of whiplash that has the exact same symptoms as a concussion. Further proving that the Leafs don't want to jinx themselves with the C word, Torontonians have been informed that James Reimer has reached a plateau in his recovery and could be out for quite a while. And when you throw around words like plateau, with whiplash, that's something that doesn't happen. At all. Either way, while I want Reimer back, I'm glad that the Leafs are taking their time with this guy. You can't rush a promising guy like this back too soon and possibly mess his career. And hey, the fact that the backups are doing a good job in his stead never hurts. And moving on to the final game, the Leafs come crashing back down as they lose to the Boston Bruins 7-0. Scoring for the Leafs, no one. Scoring for the Bruins, Tyler Seguin with 3, Milan Lucic with 2, David Krejci, Gregory Campbell. You know what? It doesn't matter. This was just a plain old curb stomping. My thoughts on this game? OMG, Tyler Seguin's totally better than Phil Kessel! Or at least that's what the media apparently wants us to be talking about. But I really don't want to, as that got old before the end of last season. Yet we're forced to hear about it and compare them every single time Boston plays the Leafs. And that means that as long as Phil Kessel is in the blue and white and Seguin's in the black and yellow, we'll be forced to sit through this. I mean, it looks really bad on the reporters that they can't think of anything better to talk about every time these two teams play each other. And after the game, Kessel went off about it in his own quiet Phil Kessel way. Meaning that Phil Kessel, being the soft-spoken guy that he is, never really goes off about anything, but he did tell a reporter off. When asked about the Seguin versus him situation, Kessel said, "I don't care. How many times are you going to ask about it?" Thank you, Phil. Your fans are tired of hearing about it too. The second thing that got me in a bit of a tizzy about this game was the goalie situation. Ben Scrivens started his second consecutive game in this one, and I really don't agree with that decision. While Boston is currently at the bottom of the standings in the East, they always give the Leafs trouble, like when we played them earlier this season. If I was making the decisions, you give the puck to Gustafsson, and in practice you actually emphasize, defense. Because it doesn't matter who you put in that net, the Leafs were not about to win that game. No jump, no effort, and if I had my way, no shaking of Ben Scrivens' confidence. And final point about this game featured Luke Schenn, who's been having somewhat of a shaky season, sitting in the press box for a first time this season as a healthy scratch. He's had some really unfortunate efforts. And while I think that Luke Schenn has earned some more leeway than perhaps other guys on this roster, there's nothing wrong with sitting a guy for a game or two. Let him find his game in the press box. Wherever he lost it, he's not finding it on the ice. Anyway, with that loss, the Leafs slip into third place in the league behind the Penguins and Dallas. Oh, by the way, we still have a game in hand on Pittsburgh. So, hey, not bad if you ask me. We'll have some bumps on the road back to respectability, but we've had a heck of a kickstart. Keep it up, boys. Go Leafs, go.